Welcome everyone to the EED webinar number 15 on May 27th, and we're looking at war games of identity, which is really relevant for today with everything going on in our news, in our media, social media, the way people are interacting. Yes, it's relevant for today, but this is something that is also part of human nature. We all have identity. We all have relationships, and all those relationships have dynamics. And so we're going to look at how do identities clash? How do they get into opposition? Why do we even have identity? And how can that be used or co-opted for power gains, for manipulation? And how do we immunize ourselves from those types of games and power plays? So, to be brief, here's what we're looking at today. It's an overview of the various identity traps that we can run into, and how when we're strongly attached to identity, that creates the opening to manipulation, where we can become vulnerable to manipulation. So already the antidote to that is start doing the work to let go of identity, meaning let go of attachment to identity. And I want to be very clear here. We're not trying to eliminate identity, but it's a part of us. It's a vehicle in order to function, but it is not all of who we are. And we're getting led astray into thinking, yeah, everything I am, everything I do has to do with my beliefs, with my skin color, with what I believe in, and that's who I am, and I'm standing strong with it. That's just creating more entrenchment and attachment. So, and what we're teaching with emergent essence dynamics is, yes, you have identity, but you also have essence, a permanent, timeless part of yourself that is fluid, whereas identity is quite rigid. I'm going to list for you a whole bunch of manipulative tactics that are targeting our fears, our weaknesses, our identity, and our personal values. And I feel that this is very relevant as well. There's a lot of attack on personal values, and personal values can be used in the name of personal growth, which then starts leaking into coaching and leadership and conflict resolution, and it can start erring on the side of becoming biased, where then there's some kind of a hidden agenda in the whole personal growth movement. We're going to look at that a little bit, all right? And I'm not making accusations. I'm just saying it is possible for it to bleed through. I've seen it happen. And there's ways to keep yourself clean if you're working in coaching and leadership and mediation or any other disciplines that have to do with personal growth and development. And by the way, we all use these manipulative tactics. So I'm not saying, anyone is innocent here, because we're all conditioned to use them. We've seen them, we parrot them, but I want to create awareness of what tactics are being used and how they're being used. All right. That helps you protect yourself. And also it helps you become aware of what you may be doing unconsciously. And then finally, building immunity to these identity games and some basic ways to neutralize any bids of manipulation. We're going to look at the bait and the hook. How do you get pulled in to manipulative games, either knowingly or unknowingly by the other person? I just want to say as a disclaimer, not everyone is conscious of what they're doing. And like I said, a lot of times we're just imitating behaviors that we've seen and experienced. So, and we think we're doing this all in the name of a noble cause or being a good person, okay? I'm not saying everyone is evil, okay? So does anyone have any comments or questions there before I move on, or does this spark anything up for you? Or just give me a thumbs up and I'll keep going, yeah? Okay. Feel free also, as we go along, to unmute, ask a question, make a comment. Feel free to agree, disagree. It's all fine with me. Happy to debate things, all right? Since it seems like, debate is becoming less and less of an art, and people are being censored from even doing that. So, which is another game, all right? So basically, now, but most of you all here already know what emergent essence dynamics is, so I'm going to be really brief to save time. It's all about how relationships work in a dynamic way, meaning what are patterns that are occurring in relationships, and it's these patterns that are driving people and their issues. So when that applies to, it's all human dynamics, and that's what we're dealing with, the basic fundamentals of human dynamics and how things play off each other, how people play off each other, and what are those fundamental patterns. So when you're working with coaching, leadership, mediation, or facilitation or beyond, you are actually working with those patterns. We just may not realize it. EED is making that very transparent. And there's two things we're doing is, first, we're creating resilience in the person, relationship, or group before we try to transform anything. Because if we transform too soon, we could be creating a transformation based on fear and reactivity, which is basically going to transform nothing. Everything is just going to snap back into its original pattern. By creating resilience, first, we're lowering resistance, and therefore we can start to reveal what's truthfully happening in the dynamic, looking at core patterns through people's actions and behaviors. Then through the resilience, people become more relaxed, more fluid, more receptive. We can start shifting the patterns without them feeling threatened. And in fact, they are the ones doing the shift, not me, the facilitator, the coach, or the leader. So EED is like a submodel. It works with all disciplines dealing with dynamics. All right. So how does that apply here? It's on the relationship dynamic side, where every relationship is playing a game of opposition, or every game is complementing, where it's either complementary or in opposition. And that's what I mean by the game and the dream level here. All right. So many of you have seen this before. I'm going to explain this as far as how does identity tie in here. So we all have our own story, our own history, our own point of view. Each individual is coming from a range of their own experience, conditioning, learned behaviors, etc. They're in their own world from their own point of view, and they have a story to go by. And in order to feel safe and secure and to feel right, having the right to exist and function, we keep reinforcing that story for ourselves. We'll keep finding proof that our story is true. Now, that's the level of story. It's just a singular truth. It's one outlook on the world, but it is not the absolute truth. Now, when you get two people together with two different stories, that creates a game, and that's truth in opposition. Maybe they agree, so they'll get along. But if they don't, if they have two different points of view, they're going to clash because they are a threat to each other. Why? Because they're a threat to each person's belief system. All right. And what we're doing is we're each in our own little bubble of belief, and those beliefs are bumping up against each other. So this becomes conquer or be conquered. Believe my system, or I have to give up my system. Okay. And that becomes a source of conflict for everyone. Now, if we drop a further level down, and this is where EED is functioning, the level of fluidity, truth in flux, meaning the bubbles start to open. There's enough resilience in each person that they're able to let go of being so attached to their belief systems or their reality bubble that they're allowing themselves to really truly start experiencing the other person and allowing themselves to be influenced. This expands their reality. And now we're getting more of a truthful dynamic between each person. So therefore, you can have your world, I can have my world. They no longer are in opposition, but in fact, they can complement each other, enhance each other, augment each other, and create a larger reality. A simple example can be, my world is based on hot temperature. Your world is based on cold temperature. In my world, hot is the best. It's the most true. It's the most right. In your world, cold is the best, the most true, the most right. And so it's got to be either hot or cold. But on this level of dream, hot and cold can work together. They can contrast each other and complement each other to express a wider range of temperature. All right? Therefore, if you have a victim, you must have a persecutor in order for the victim-persecutor dynamic to happen. It's not that we're all victims or we're all persecutors. They don't exist without each other, all right? So you can have Republican, you can have Democrat, you can have Catholic, you can have Jewish, it doesn't matter, but they all are essentially trying to express a universal thing, okay? And that's the level of source, a universal truth, a unified truth. It is not absolute truth. Unified truth is all potential. Everything and anything is possible, and if it exists, it is true. This is where we start to reconcile paradox, all right? Now, in the real world, we're not living so much from a unified truth. We've got to select. And this is what builds our games and our stories. The problem happens here is when we don't go below this red line, and all our actions, beliefs, and behaviors are only coming from story and game. That's rigidity. If we drop into dream and source, we have no problem to adapt, be flexible, redefine ourselves. That enables evolution in ourselves and in our relationship, where we can draw from source and reconstruct ourselves, all right? And there's where we get flexibility of identity. Story and game is a conditional space. It's rules and conditions, if, so, when. Dream and source is more unconditional because of that fluidity, all right? It's an unconditional space. Here in the game, it's conditional love. Down in source or dream, it is unconditional love. Love exists no matter what. Here in story and game, love exists only if and when X, Y, and Z is happening. Otherwise, love gets taken away, all right? So how does this apply to identity? Our stories reinforce our identities. So what we seek for truth, we'll find and we'll prove, and that will reinforce our identities. So what comes first, identity or belief? Both are reinforcing each other. And that is determining our actions and what we seek to prove. When we get in relationships, we get into battles for our identity, all right? We're battling to be right in who we are. In dream, we can take a step back and we can say, well, here I am in my identity. Well, what role am I playing there? And how is that functioning in the larger picture? So I'm now becoming more of an archetype. If I have an identity as a social justice warrior and I'm fighting for this right and this cause, and I'm now playing in the battle to win my cause and be on the crusade. If I look at it from dream, I can look at, well, what's the larger contribution my role as social justice warrior is making, all right? Maybe it's to wake something up. It's to start facilitating a change, but I don't have to get so attached to winning. It's more of, I'm making a contribution to the larger universal picture. Is that making sense what I'm saying when we talk about archetype? Identity becomes less rigid and personal. It becomes more of a contribution. Did anyone have any comments on that, or even just a thumbs up that you get that? It's a bit subtle, the idea of the archetype. Okay. Here at source, there is no more identity. It is just pure universal essence, all right? All potential. So it's the potential behind the identity. We can draw from the essence and create an archetype which creates an identity. But in universal essence, no. No more ego, no more identity, okay? Questions, comments there? This is just the setup for partly where is identity coming from and where is it living in our world. Yeah, go ahead.
From my side, hi. So is it that the story and game context both mean nothing but that I design my actions towards maintaining that singular truth?
Yes.
So I can't live without that truth. So that's the unspoken rule of the game, sort of.
Yeah.
Whereas it's just the opposite, the inverse for the dream and source. The singular truth acts as a device. So the singular truth would be the action. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, what then would be the goal to strive for in dream and source, so below the red line. Would you mind elaborating on that?
Yeah, let's say we use our identity as a vehicle to function in the world. All right, it's a representation of individuality, right? It's a representation of my creative mind. All right, just like you have a physical body, right? Okay. Where we get, yeah, go ahead.
The identity, be it false or wrong or whatever, using the identity as a device to find the connection to your source.
Yes, it's a doorway into source, and then it's a doorway out of source to express source, okay? The source in itself is all potential. It needs to be expressed. Therefore, it needs a vehicle for its expression. And
with EED, we just dive in and dive out.
Yeah, we dip in and we dip out.
Yes. So that's the process.
That's the process. And we're using ego, identity, individuality as a vehicle, because what you're doing is you can't express all parameters at once. You have to be selective of what parameters am I expressing now. All right.
So it's raise a form of manifestation, to say.
Yeah, it's for manifestation.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm too rigid in my identity, I'm only going to be creating and expressing a limited range. All right. And then when I forget my source, when I forget that I'm capable of being fluid, I'm going to really push and fight for that limited range. And I'm going to try to make the whole world that limited range, because that's what I think is the only thing that's true. That's where we get in trouble with being rigid with our story and game. That's when we're living above the red line and have lost connection to what's below the red line.
And once you lost your connection to your inner source, then the feedback loop is sort of broken, isn't it? So
it's broken feedback.
It doesn't happen what happens or what you make with your singular truth in the world. Since there's no feedback loop happening, so it doesn't matter that you do anything at all.
Well, all you're doing then is you're seeking other stories that match up so you can play the game. This is what's creating the polarized camp.
It's a lock-in, right? Basically.
To survive.
Yeah.
That becomes a survival game. When we are connected with dream and source, we have more adaptability and flexibility and resilience. Now it becomes a game of simple creation, expression, and thriving. That's the difference. This is a survival game, and this is an act of creation and thriving. We have more autonomy and freedom when we have free access to all four levels. Right? I don't want to get too stuck in here, but it's giving a bit of a background of how identity is functioning, why it's there. It's a vehicle for expression, all right? And it's expressing a limited range of parameters, okay? Now, what makes up the identity? Now, notice I put in here, what is it to be a good person?
I have a question here.
Go ahead, Annabelle, yeah.
So, you mean that source cannot express without identity?
Yeah, because we don't live in the world of source. We live in the world of manifestation.
Yeah, but my sense is that source is when sometimes you speak and you come from intuition and you speak and your mind says, oh, what am I saying? But it's the right thing to say.
That's right. That's accessing source. I want to be very clear. We're accessing source, okay? It's behind all of the manifestation. If you want to get very metaphysical, it's like the quantum field behind all of matter, for example, okay? Mm-hmm. If you want to think of it that way, I'm saying as a metaphor. It's the spirit behind the matter. Do you get what I'm saying? And we can access that, but we don't live in that world, because that means we're moving back into a world of inertia, of all potential. We live in a world of movement, motion, and matter, and vibration, and being what's concrete, okay? That's physical manifestation. It comes from source, but it is not at source. If you want to live at source level, you will die. You will lose your manifested body. if you want to be that simple. Does that make sense?
Well, that is my endeavor, is to live as source throughout the day.
Right. We want to keep open access to source through all of our manifestations, through all of our creative expressions. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the idea. That's why we want to be able to have free access to all these levels.
I want to add here, I think it's really hard to remain in a state of essence while walking around or doing things. So I always feel like something new is coming in and I need to dip down again.
That's right. The source is the level of inertia. No movement, no being, no action, no nothing. It's nothing, in a way, nothingness, right? It's inactivity, all right?
Just one more thing, if you don't mind, or do you want to continue with your?
Well, if you have something to add it now, and then.
Okay. So what I just feel like is that, could you just go back one slide? If that's okay, cool. So story and game. So the identity itself, let's just suppose it is a box. And if I'm so identified with that identity, with that singular truth, I'm living the life, I'm not living it in the box. So everything happens in the box.
That's right. Okay. This is great. Okay. Good metaphor. Thank you for bringing that in. Okay. So here's a cup, all right? Or a glass. That is my identity. It's a container for the creative source, the creative energies, the creative expression, the mind, all right? The consciousness. Now, I'll get tricked into thinking I am this glass and I am this only one glass, all right? It's forgetting that the glass contains liquid, and then if it says, oh, well, I'm the liquid and the glass, then I've got to hold this liquid. I can't lose it, and I have to keep my glass full. Oops, my glass is going to get empty. I may not exist. What we don't realize is that identity is simply the vessel. It is the glass, and then we can have two glasses, and they can start bumping up against each other. They don't realize they're passing liquid back and forth. This is the dream level where we can freely pass the liquid back and forth. And in fact, I can change glasses. Like, I'm not just one box. I can be another box and another box and another box. I can be a glass, a cup, a wine glass, a champagne glass, doesn't matter. Because who am I? I'm the liquid. We're all the liquid. That's the level of source. It's the universal liquid that's passing back and forth. The liquid gets colored in each glass, and we mistake ourselves for being the glass. We forget we're the liquid. Is this making sense? Go ahead, Paul. Yeah? He gives a big thumbs up. Well, he had a big reaction.
A thumbs up. Yeah, my reaction is, well, no, I can't say anything more meaningful than you just did. I mean, we are consciousness, but we are also our bodies. It depends on what you prefer, maybe.
Yeah. Except that we forget that we're actually the liquid, all right? And we're so attached to the glass that it becomes precious, okay? When we realize, actually, I'm the liquid just traveling, we're all traveling from one glass to another. That's what creates unity and diversity, because we're all these thousands of different kinds of glasses. We're all the same particles in the liquid. It's really easy for us to pass back and forth, but in order to have experience in this world, we do need to localize. So we localize in a glass. Does that make sense?
So as we are the liquid, it's not the solution just to be the liquid in space.
No.
The manifestation comes into play with a glass.
That's right.
However, we should not go to the other extreme and be that rigid that we can only exist in that specific glass.
Right. Exactly.
So life in its purity would then be the change of the liquid, the flow of the liquid between the different manifestations, glasses or so.
We want to facilitate the flow of the liquid, and for each glass that the liquid comes into, it enriches the wisdom and the experience of the liquid, and that passes from glass to glass, and that's what helps us to then evolve and fully express the full potential of the liquid.
And it is sort of the aesthetics of that flow.
Say it again.
EED is nothing but the aesthetics of the flow.
It's about accessing the flow, facilitating the flow, and allowing the glass and the liquid to work together as opposed to either or. Okay, so it's working together. And then that's creating unity and diversity. So we can allow for the glass, we can allow for positions, localizations, but we also can have that fluidity to really, I don't know, become one with each other, and while also being complementary, while also being individuals. Annabelle, did you want to add something? I saw you unmute.
Yes, I was wondering, the glass represents the identity, but one, it's not the body or the mind, it's an identity, the glass.
Yeah, it's a construct, let's say. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, basic thing about identity is I want to be a good person. Who wants to be a bad person? Right? This is one of the bases of identity. I want to belong and I want to be a good person. Because if I'm not a good person, I won't belong. I'll be isolated. I'll be thrown out. I won't be able to survive. Okay. So that is one of the basics of an identity. We're going to look at that a bit later too. So here's all the ingredients that we are making up our identity. It's a collection of values. We've got beliefs. We've got our history. We've got our own education, our culture, our family. All of these things start shaping identity and personality. That includes what's my race, my belief system and creed, my religion, the kind of politics I follow, what's my gender, what's my sexuality, what's my economic status, my finances. All of these things are like clothes that we wear. It's what decorates the glass, okay? And it's what helps me feel individual and distinct. Why do I want to feel individual and distinct? Because I want to feel important, all right? So identity is in a way the opposite of source. It wants to be crystallized and recognized. Whereas source, it's everything and nothing all at the same time. It has no need for individuality because it is everything, all right? So identity is quite the opposite of that. Now, where do we have these battlegrounds of identity? Oh, and I want to add here, there's three main things that our human nature strives for. It is love and belonging, all right? Love meaning connection, being nurtured, belonging to the tribe, all right? That's all around connection and validation. Also, it's in our human nature to have justice and balance and control. So that's where the idea of fairness is coming in, all right? We want equality. We want harmony in order to function. So that's more of the power balance, all right? And in order to act, we must have full right of conviction. If I don't feel 100% right with total conviction, I will not act, all right? A very extreme example is I will not pull the trigger of a gun. My body will not do it if it does not feel truthful, if I do not feel 100% right. My body will not do it. But in that split second where I feel, this is 100% right, I don't care what the argument is, whether it's self-defense or I got to get rid of this, of Satan, it doesn't matter. But I will not pull that trigger until I feel full right of conviction. And this is important to understand for being able to take action. Our identity creates, our identity takes action. Therefore, it needs to have a sense of full right of conviction. In order to feel like it exists, it needs to belong. It needs to feel connected. In order to move about its existence, it needs to be able to control. It needs to feel like everything is balancing and fair. And that's what it's basing its actions on, is this equalization of balancing. You have more, therefore I need more. Or I'll give you more so that I can receive some recognition and validation. Is this making sense, what I'm saying? These three things: love, justice, and right. full right of conviction. This is kind of new. I haven't really talked about that before. Now, where are these battlegrounds of identity? You guys have any ideas? I got a whole list here, but let's hear from you. Where do we have this warfare of identity?
Politics.
Politics.
Different intentions.
Yeah, we all have different intentions. So what's the battlefield where we can all have different intentions?
But it's life itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Marriage.
Say it again.
Marriage.
Yeah. So family, marriage, relationships, absolutely. Yeah.
Survival, striving for goals.
Okay. So careers
Career.
in our workplace, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Economy,
Religion, definitely. Yeah.
Sports.
Sports, yeah. It's entertainment, right?
even science.
Absolutely.
That seems to be out of ideology, but it's really full of ideology.
Yep. Science, medicine, history. So, and there's more. Here we go. So we've got our news media. That news media is programming and defining and redefining and reinforcing all our different senses of identity. Whether this is mainstream media or whether it's alternative media, whether it's fake news or real news, it doesn't matter. And you've got all these different little subworlds of news media, okay? And they're all divided and in opposition. They're all appealing to different camps of different stories, all right? You've got entertainment. It's showing you your version of reality, somebody else's version of reality. We have all these different heroes in entertainment, whether that's through music, dance, movies, or novels or stories, but all of it is reinforcing various identities. You're seeing it happen very openly now in the political arena. And all of these battles are happening on social media. Marketing and advertising is reinforcing and programming and shifting identity, all right? It's feeding identity. Same with education, right from a child into university. The whole education is shaping identity. And now, more so than ever, science, we're starting to identify through science. For example, climate change. That's becoming an identity issue now. Are you anti-climate change or for climate change? Do you believe the science or do you not believe the science? Okay, that's starting to create camps of identity. Same with medicine and psychology. Vaccines, anti-vaccines, that's becoming an identity issue now. Our whole history. And then religion, spirituality, that's an old game of identity, all right? Like you said, relationships, marriage, what's happening in our work, in our industries, corporations, but also identity issues leak into personal growth programs. Why? Because we all want to be a good person. So what's the identity that's going to make me a better person? All right. Reactions here. Comments, reactions, or anything? Yeah. All good. Okay. So
I have a reaction, but it's not directly connected to that. It's when you say everybody wants to be a good person. I agree to a certain extent, except for some people, the ideal is not to be a good person. Some, even just temporarily, because, for example, some people will say, "I'm a fierce businessman. My ideal is not to give a shit about anyone because I want to be number one. And even if I have to crush others in the process, I don't care."
Okay, now Philippe, get in their shoes. Okay,
Yep.
in their full right of conviction. In order for me to be number one, that means I am a good, legitimate person. Okay, that's what I mean. Okay, I need to be the most powerful, and
Yep.
I will kill and lie and cheat and steal along the way because I want to be that good person. Who wants to be a piece of shit?
So it's in their own eyes. It's not for society, but it's in their own eyes. Yes.
Now, somebody else might say, "Oh, I'm so fucked up. Oh, look at me, I'm a piece of shit." But why are they doing that? to be thought of as, oh, look at this person. They're so honest and transparent, and oh, they're going to get all this attention, right? That's part of their identity, okay? As long as I'm receiving love, as long as I belong, right? That's my identity. I'm being recognized that I exist. This is what I mean. So Philippe, in your eyes, that ruthless business person is not a good person, okay? And that's going to create the battleground, all right, between you and him. But in that person's mind, they think you're a piece of shit and failing at life because you don't care about the same things, right? And they're going to be a good person. And then you guys start pointing the fingers at each other. Is that making sense now? That's setting up for the battle, okay?
Absolutely. Now, on the other hand, what's a bit more, what I have more problems with is you said love and belonging, justice and balance, full rights of conviction. So I'm okay with the last one, but the first two, again, to a certain extent, because some people, okay, let's say my absolute goal is to become an emperor or a king, and I say, okay, I don't really want to be loved. What I want is I want people to fear me, or I want people to admire me. But love is not really important to me.
Okay, that's a form of what I'm calling validation, connection, okay?
Yeah.
I am admired, I am revered, or I am feared, okay? I'm still receiving energy and attention, okay? There is no baby in the world that would refuse their mother's milk. There is no baby in the world that would refuse to be held and nurtured. Do you understand? That's why I'm calling it love. It's a basic life force. Now it has many variations, okay?
Okay. So same for justice and balance. I guess we can agree that if my idea of justice is I want to have basically I want to earn like 5 times what others are earning in my job, because I believe I am worth much better than them and I should get it. And again, this is just my sense of justice and balance, right? Okay.
Right. Because what you're trying to do is you've created criteria of what's a balancing factor, okay? You'll never just willingly say, oh, let me be paid, half the amount for twice the work. Because, and if you're going to do that, you're still going to want to balance it in some other way. Give me the recognition as being a martyr. Give me the recognition as being heroic for being willing to accept those shitty conditions. Does that make sense what I'm saying? It's in our nature to constantly balance and equalize. That is the nature of the universe, all right?
Okay.
That's how polarities work.
Okay. So all of this is in the eyes of the person who is watching. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what you must remember is you got to get inside their shoes, in their identity. They're out to, connect, they're out to balance, and they're out to act from full right of conviction. If they don't have full right of conviction, they will not act. Okay.
Agreed. Yeah.
This is hopefully what can start to open up a little bit of empathy and open your bubble to start understanding, okay, I'm seeing where other people are coming from. Now, we're 10 minutes to the top of the hour. I got more to present. So if anyone does need to leave, feel free, right? And then feel free to stick around because I'll probably end up going till past, okay? Okay, now. So what are the targets of the war game? We've already alluded to this. So there's basically 2 games we're playing, and that is validation and control. We're trying to answer 2 basic questions. Do I exist? What answers that is, do you recognize me? Do I belong? Am I worthy? Okay. This is looking for the acknowledgement. That's what you could call heart-based, right? Then there's the game of control. How do I make sure I'm existing? Okay, I know I exist, but how do I make sure I can exist? I need to control my environment around me. I need to make sure I'm safe. Am I secure? Will I survive? So this is the power center, all right, that drives us, moves us, okay? So that can be more of the lower body center, okay? The stomach, the groin, okay? It even goes down to how do I make sure my race, my people will exist? That goes down to reproduction, okay? So Both of these games are driven by fear, need, and desperation. Emptiness. Why? It's an empty glass. Am I really here? And if I am I really moving about in the world? How do I make sure I can move? I need to fill up. I need to fill myself up with that liquid. Okay? So war games of identity are going to prey on that feeling of emptiness with a promise to either fulfill the identity or destroy it and annihilate it. Okay, that's a polarity. Either you get fulfilled or destroyed. And when that gets aggravated, that's going to aggravate these questions. Oh my God, do I belong here? Am I secure? Am I safe? Do I belong? Am I worthy? Will I survive? Okay, and that gets that activated and it's going to move. All right. Now, another way to call validation and control can be sex and power. This is how advertising works. They appeal to the sex drive and the power drive to manipulate you, to convince you, or to create propaganda, fear and propaganda. All right, that's what basic the psychology of propaganda is it's building on our human nature, our animal drives of sex and power. Sex to connect, sex to reproduce, control to survive. All right. Now, our modern war games of identity are also including a warfare of information and a warfare of emotions. We're doing emotional warfare, not factual warfare. And we're playing around with the belief systems. So we are dealing today with the animal desires of sex and power, the human desire for validation and control. We're navigating propaganda, manipulation, emotional manipulation, information warfare, and beliefs warfare, warfare of beliefs. So we've got a lot that we're dealing with and navigating. Again, it's coming down to playing on those three things of every human being is coming from love, justice, and being right, the right to act. How are you guys doing with this? Does this start to pull together for you a little bit?
You should put out this webinar because I think that will help a lot of people to just step back and say, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
I did it because I think you felt the same way, and all of us, that I was a kind of, okay, I'm stretched by one way and another way, one way and another, where I am here now.
Yeah.
Where I am here.
And these war games are, go ahead, go ahead. Yeah, I'll add it.
And where is my capacity to discern?
Right.
And I really step back and I say, okay, I have to reconnect absolutely with my, you call source, I called my true nature.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said, I'm inseparable from this true nature, and then I want to live and give my impact through that space, not the other space. So I made the choice. And I started to study something that I didn't understand in a way that I said, okay, can I have my idea, my personal idea on what's going on? And I pick up what I felt. It was not a conceptual understanding. I was really connected truly with the source. And I say, so now guide me to understand. And there's a complete new way to learn.
Right. That's listening to source, letting the source come through. It can feel like intuition or a gut instinct or something else. Then start to match that up with your logical mind. Allow the logical mind to now start investigating that, right? Not to prove it, but to deconstruct it, pull it apart and say, okay, what's solid in this, right? Otherwise, what we're doing is we're not spending enough time to be able to do that kind of investigation and research. We're being distracted from paying attention to that inner source. And B, we're not given time, or we don't give ourselves time to connect with those impulses, research those impulses, check them out, okay? It's much easier to say, believe this expert and just follow. and don't question what that expert is saying. Okay, we're given easily packaged sources of information. We're also being asked, you need to choose this camp or the other camp. We're also being confused. Which camps? We're so disconnected from ourselves. We're in a confusion. We don't know what to believe, who we are, where to go. And so it's making us depend on even more validation. Go to this camp, you'll feel welcome, you'll feel sane, and we'll take care of you, you'll belong. Even though those other guys are gonna persecute you, well, we'll protect you, right? And it's happening on both sides, right? So we're being not connected to our own inner source. We're being confused of where to go. The information is all confusing, filled with truths, half-truths, non-disclosures, disclosures. So, but the very thing that we're missing is nobody is looking within. Go ahead, Benjamin.
So it sounds to me like, Troy, it's a sense, well, sort of a failed attempt to find your inner source. So
yeah, it's a complete. All these war games are a complete distraction from you seeking your inner source. Yeah.
But it's isn't it a little of an awareness? Oh, there is something I want to connect to, but it's the wrong way to do it.
Right. So sometimes here's the tricky part. Oh, I'm going to believe in my own inner source, but it's still actually my inner identity. It's right. You got sources has nothing to do with identity at all. So that's the tricky thing to discover. This is why I'm not so supportive of some of these coaching and leadership programs, because what they're doing is they're taking one identity and replacing it with another. Like where, you know, my inner captain, my inner this, my inner that, my inner child, all that. It's just another form of identity. Whereas the true inner source is nothing to be, nothing to do, nowhere to go. A pure state of essence, a pure state of potential, where we can be in that place of calm, and then anything and everything can bubble up, and we're not so attached. Philip, did you want to add something there?
Yeah, just one quick thing, that some programs are, some programs will also take the identity you have and just push it to the extreme.
Yeah.
So this also doesn't work, because you need to open up if you want to connect to source.
No, because you're still swinging in that game, on that level of game. The game is based on polarity in opposition. Okay. So focus on your own innate resilience. That allows you to connect to source, or source and then resilience. This is really important. Create a healthy relationship with emptiness through acceptance. Great exercises. So fine, take away this, take away that, peel everything away from yourself so that you're hitting these points of emptiness and be able to stay there. Take away your reputation, take away your credibility, take away all your friends, take away all your money, take away your home, because we cling to those things, all right? Because we think I won't survive without them. And so if you're clinging to any of that stuff, I now can use it, and I'll threaten your home, I'll threaten your credibility, I'll threaten your career. That's how I can blackmail you. Do you understand? So, and this is happening in such subtle ways on social media, where everyone's credibility is being attacked. And so now they're afraid to post this, they're afraid to like this or agree, and it's getting so polarized that it's just becoming echo chambers of who's in my camp, right? And nobody's receiving new information now. So, and that's how censorship is working. Know yourself through source, not through identity. Okay, so in fact, peel away the identity. Start to know yourself through source, and now you can create multiple identities. Okay, so you're not dependent on identity to define yourself. You just are. Okay, so three tips to already build some immunization, right? Now, this next slide, we could stay on this and end here, okay? But you know, I got more for you guys, so maybe it would have to be bonus material. Just saw, hold on, something. So take a look at that. Yeah, it's okay. So yeah, if anyone has to leave, you're gonna have to leave, that's okay. You'll get the recording. Now, this is very important. Here are 8 tactics to pull you into any of these war games or to manipulate. So there's two ways to do it. I either aggravate your sense of emptiness or your weakness, okay? Your sense of fear. Or I stroke your identity, bolster it up, strengthen it, inflate the ego, okay? And it's going to appeal to your weakness of control, your weakness of validation, or your strength of control, your strength of validation, all right? Now, we can look at these first four. Fear, it's like I'll impose fear on you, okay? That's an outside fear, okay? That's going to destabilize your sense of control. Or I can instill inner emptiness or fear and make you feel obligated to something. You owe me. That will create an inner loss of control, okay? Fear is an external loss of control, or you can have an inner loss of control, fear and obligation. I can also play on your sense of validation. I can put guilt upon you. I'll make you feel guilty, or I'll weaken your sense of internal validation by inflicting shame. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're such a bad person. It's like where I'm no longer validating myself. I got to make up for whatever I did wrong. I can't be so ashamed. So are you guys seeing how these are four doorways into manipulation? I can use fear on you. I can make you feel obligated. I'll make you feel guilty, or I'll make you feel shameful. Just take those four words and notice your own reactions, what it does to you, what happens for you.
So for me, Troy, fear feels internal and obligation external.
In a way, yeah. You're going to feel internal fear. What I'm saying is I'm putting the fear of God on you, okay? I'm putting, it's like the fears, it's being put upon you. Same with obligation. I mean, I don't know. Somehow I'm seeing that as more of an external thing. The fear. I know you'll feel the inner fear. With obligation, you're going to still feel an inner fear. But what's happening is it's an inner loss of control or an external loss of control. Let's say fear, threat. All right.
Yes, I see.
Yeah. The threat, which creates an external fear. Anyone else? I mean, this sometimes feels separate. It's a little convenient for me to categorize this stuff. It's a little simplistic, but it makes it easier for our mind to wrap around. Don't make these rules, but just make these more categorized, because everything in a dynamic is working from external to internal on control and validation. It's just a movement on these different axes. Now, we have the other way of inflating the ego. I can there's heroism, make you feel like a hero. You become the hero. That means you're getting, your ego, it's giving you a sense of more control from the external. I am a hero. Collusion, what I mean by that is secret information. Information nobody else has. If I give you secret information nobody else has, you'll feel an internal sense of power, an internal sense of control, okay? Validation, the external part is importance. I'll give you higher status. I'll make you feel so important, okay? That can go along with the heroism as well. But heroism is more of, look who I am, what I've accomplished, worship, admire, revere me. That gives me a sense of power. Whereas importance, put me up on a pedestal like a god, that's a high sense of validation, okay? Flattery is compliment. I'm going to compliment you. I'm going to stroke you, make you feel like you're such a good person internally, okay? And that will draw you in. So I'm using flattery, increasing your sense of importance. I'm giving you secret information, or I'm painting you to be a hero. That's all inflating the ego, okay? It's another way to manipulate. Because what I'm doing is I'm filling your cup. Do you understand? When I'm aggravating weakness, I'm taking things out of your cup, or I'm making you realize it's more empty. Okay. Are you guys following this now? Or any questions here? All right, well, let's put this to an application. Here's 4 relevant topics. We've got the corona lockdown. Notice I did not say coronavirus. I'm calling it the corona lockdown because that's what the game is really about. We've got the climate change debate. We've got racism and sexism floating all over the place in media, in social media, and in recent weeks, this whole thing on conspiracy theories and fake news and what to believe. All of that is floating around. So how are these games being played where you're seeing those 8 actions or behaviors happening? If you start analyzing what's going on using those 8 behaviors, or 8 baits, hooks, 8 bids, yeah?
Well, I see corona lockdown with fear and obligation.
Yep.
And racism and sexism, guilt and shame.
Mm-hmm.
Conspiracy theory, heroism and collusion.
Mm-hmm.
Even in person and flattery in certain way, both. Yep. And climate change, even heroism and collusion.
Yep. Are you a fan of Greta Thunberg or not?
Not at all.
Okay, then I'm going to say, shame on you. You know, she is a hero. Now, how could you say she's not a climate expert? I mean, she's just a 16-year-old child with autism. Now I'm going to shame you, okay? And I'm going to put fear in your gut and in your heart because, you know what? If we don't follow Greta, the whole world is going to be destroyed. You are obligated to follow this. If you're not, you're ostracized, okay? Do you guys understand how these are all emotional arguments, right?
Yes.
It is not about Greta. She is a vehicle for the war game of what climate change is all about. It's a war game in itself. Put the fear of God in you that the world will be destroyed. Every decade, the world is going to be destroyed by something.
Absolutely.
Right?
Every decade, but there is also the century stuff, the millennial stuff, and there are these connection with some mystical numbers too.
Yes, all of this, okay? So what I mean by every decade is the climate change story and terminology changes every decade. Like from the 70s, we were going to go into an ice age, and then the 80s, you know, then we had the ozone layer, and then you know, in the 90s, in the 2000s and the 2010s, you can just track it, right? It's a constantly changing story. Corona lockdown. So fear, literal lockdown. Everything locks down. That creates fear. Fear of catching a virus, fear of losing business, creates fear through isolation. And then now there's obligation. You know, if you want to save the world, you are obligated to stay home. If you do not socially distance, if you do not, you know, follow the rules, now you're guilty of destroying the world. You're guilty of destroying the human race. Shame on you. You're the terrorist. Okay? And if you wear a mask, well, you're a hero. Right? And if you don't, shame on you, guilty, you know, and you know, you need to join the cause to belong, you know, let's flatten that curve, right? You're flattening the curve. You're very important in healing the world. So, I mean, the mask is not about health. That is becoming a symbol of identity right now. Who's wearing the mask? Who's not? It's no longer about health. It's becoming a symbol of identity. It's now a marker. Whose side are you on? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, especially because I am in Italy and there are a lot of professors that say the virus is going to die here in Italy. We have no longer infected people, and also the symptoms of virus are really weak now because this virus died with the warm weather. I had 2 times, so I know what is it, corona. So I'm not fearful. And people, they still wear the mask, even they suffer because, you know, there is the, I don't know how it's called it in English, but the contrary of the oxygen,
right. It's almost like an asphyxiation.
Dioxin, carbodioxin, that
carbon dioxide, yes. And you get a
yes,
lack of oxygen. Yeah.
A lack of oxygen, microbes, fungus, that all in the mask.
Bouncing
People
back
don't
into,
want.
yeah.
And I say, okay, I'm trying to stay even positive with this, because I say, okay, when I am in public places, I can wear it without problem. And because I understand the fear of people, not because I believe it, that can protect me from the virus. And they play a great game with the fear of death with this lockdown.
Yeah.
A lot of scientists say that lockdown increased the infections, because when you come at home and you stay with your family, you infect the people, can easily infect the people. So there are a lot of things that are not clear, and maybe will be clear, maybe not.
Well, I know we could go on and on, but what I want to point out is how we're being set up to choose a camp. Okay, do you wear a mask? Do you not wear a mask? Do you notice that lately this week, people are even, like Alyssa Milano is wearing that crocheted mask on her face? That's not a mask, that's a fashion statement. Do you see all these masks with, now they're being, it's becoming a fashion symbol? Okay.
Yes.
And what you really need is this N95 mask. That's the only mask that actually works because it's so tightly woven. It blocks out 95%, but it's still.
And did you see the bikini with the mask in the sea? That's during the centuries with people that have tuberculosis, they were sent to the sea or to the mountains to have this wide respiration and cure for them problem and viruses. And
now it becomes a debate of, do you adhere to the science or not? Which science is correct? Do you believe Dr. Fauci? Do you believe Dr. Mikovits? Okay, is it a conspiracy theory or not? Right? And there was all this censorship going on around. That's again the collusion thing. I've got the secret information. You've got the secret information. Who's the hero? Who's not? Am I the hero? Living in fear, guilt, and shame. All right.
So, if I understand correctly, you can use actually any of these as a key on any topic.
Yes, and it's going to just divide, and it's going to create the battleground. It's going to create the division in the camps. You got the Dr. Fauci's and the Dr. Mikovitz's. You've got the Dr. Andy Kaufman. You've got the Dr. or the Shiva. Right, and they're all saying different information about what this virus is. Does it exist? We've got now new information from CDC saying, oh, the curve is going down. You got other saying it's going up. You've got the WHO saying one thing, CDC saying another thing. You've got all these info wars, and you're asked to choose. And as soon as you make a choice, somebody's going to point the finger and say, that's not true information. That's not my camp. Right? So everyone's getting spread around. All right. And all we want to do is be right. All we want to do is belong. And all we want to do is being we want to be fair. Do you understand? And none of this, we're set up for it not to be fair. We're set up to be rejected, and we're set up to not know what's right anymore. Does this make sense what I'm saying? Doesn't matter which side you choose. You're going to experience all of these. The other thing I wanted to add here is, how do these 8 creep into, let's say, coaching programs, leadership programs, personal development? Because I know you all work in those industries.
There are the 2 polarities even there. For example, I'm a facilitator in WBEX, and I dare to share because people read just the title, they don't read the content of this journal. Say, that was even a question point: is the pandemic great talks of the history?
Mm-hmm.
And Ben Croft, the founder of WBEX, was my friend with my connection on Facebook. After I post this, he said, my grandfather died because of this, and
Mm-hmm.
he cut off me from his friendship because I told him, read the article. I dare to told him, read the article and see that there are a lot of people that are exploiting the situation
Mm-hmm.
to bring things in their own points of view, their own camps, and all people are exploiting in terms of science, in terms of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And even in financial stuff, you know, you can see that Bezos and other billionaires are gaining a lot of money from this situation, you know, because you cannot go to the market and bring things that you want. You have to order online, and all this stuff changed the way we, you know, even we choose what we want. And it just he cut off of his connection. And I say, and this is the founder of the greatest summit of WBEX that wants to raise the standard of coaching. But you know, I stay there just because of the attendees, and I have my tribe there, and we have a powerful discussion, not for him or for any other reason.
What is happening is, you know, I don't like this expression, we agree to disagree, because this is all based on consensus and agreement. And if you don't agree, you get shamed, or you get fed fear, or you're fear mongering. There's a lot of the fear, obligation, guilt, and shame working. And I'm seeing so much shame being thrown around if you don't agree with something.
I
So
felt in the coaching world, I can be clear, you know, a sort of hypocrisy that if you are in some field, you are a good coach. If you are not a good coach.
Right. That's creating camps again. Yeah.
Yes. To me personally, I don't refuse a person that has a that belief system different or the opposite of mine, because this for me is a moment of reflection personally.
Mm-hmm.
I check.
So one thing I want to say that coaches need to be aware of or careful of, same with leaders, is value systems. Values are worked with a lot. Now, if the values are based from or sourced from fear, obligation, guilt, shame, flattery, importance, collusion, or heroism, it's going to be a false value, and that can lead the client astray. It can also mean, hey, in my leadership program, or, you know, we've got to buy into these kinds of values, otherwise, no, you're a bad person, you know, and we're here to make you a better person. So it's going to start influencing which values you choose. It'll have you be in inner conflict if you're not in agreement. So you got to be very careful as a coach not to impose your value systems onto a client based on your own sense of fear, obligation, guilt, shame, heroism, collusion, importance, or flattery. And you've got to make sure that they're not doing that to themselves. You've got to neutralize that. Values are an expression of source, but values are also attached with identity. When you go down to source, there's no such thing as a value. But when you are in identity, values guide the identity, okay? So it's an identity-based thing. Yeah, go ahead.
I see another application of that, well, if you can validate. For example, in some programs, coaching programs, they will tell the client, you're already perfect the way you are. So this is in a way flattery. Or you say to the person when they start doing coaching, you say, oh my God, you're so courageous to start doing that.
Heroism.
Also
importance.
Yeah, or also they will tell you, okay, but you know, you have to be really very kind and very, very don't challenge your client too much. So they will
fear and obligation.
Yeah, or guilt.
Yeah, or guilt. Yeah. And what was the first thing you said? You're so courageous. Or I don't know, because I thought
where you are.
Yes, that can both flatter or shame the person.
Shame, really?
Don't think about that. You're perfect the way you are. Yeah, but I really want to improve this. Oh, but you're perfect.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm shaming you into trying to look further, better, whatever. Oh, you're just self-punishing. You're just beating yourself up. Or even like the client answers, I don't know. And they say, well, what if you did know? Well, that, in a way, I'm kind of shaming you, right? All of these 8 behaviors are based upon a non-acceptance of something. That's the easy tell, okay? Listen to conversations, read through news articles, listen to newscasts, watch people commenting and posting on social media, and look for those 8 things. That will help you hear and read things differently. You can take a step back. Say, are they trying to put fear on me, or obligation, or guilt, or shame? Okay. When you can neutralize that by saying, all right, fine. Put the fear and the guilt and the shame on me, the obligation, but I'm not hooked in. Okay, come back to your own source and resilience. You won't get hooked in, all right? So that's one way of developing more immunity. So, you know, I know I'm gonna quickly go through this, then I'll stop the recording, and then if you want to stick around for bonus material, you can. I'm willing to do that. I don't know if you are, because I break this down into much more specifics now. And if you want those specifics, great. But you can already, just from those 8 bids of manipulative behaviors, you can already make a long list of various actions and behaviors that you've experienced, all based on those 8 things. Okay. Now, these war games of identity have a lot more to do, I think, with validation than with control. They're using validation to try and control you and your belief systems, okay? And a lot of it is coming from your own sense of trying to be a good person. And the try, as soon as you're trying to be good, you're already in the game. Why aren't you just already a good person?
That's so true.
But we're made to forget that, okay? It's also what I don't like so much about personal growth programs is they're coming from an assumption that you're not good enough and you're going to be better. That's already setting you up for a validation game, you know, so be aware. This is where resilience can neutralize that. I'm already resilient, already connected to source. It doesn't mean I'm perfect, but it means I have all the potential within me. Now I can begin to express it, but already I'm not less than. I'm already okay. I can always grow. I can always be better. I can always evolve. But it's not about I'll be better when, okay? That's conditional. That's a game. Okay? Dream space, source space is I'm already okay. And I'm continuing to create. Is that clear, that distinction I'm making? Okay. Some classic ways is projection, gaslighting, using emotional warfare, weaponizing virtues, or coming from narcissism. Do you guys understand what gaslighting is? This is where I'm making you look crazy. Where I'm saying, I'm making you doubt your reality, your sanity. I could be doing all sorts of bad shit to you, but I'm basically making you feel like it's your fault. I'm not doing it. You're the one who's crazy. It's like turning the tables on you. Emotional warfare, that's the fear, shame, guilt, obligation thing, all right? And using high emotion with very, very few facts. It's a lot of emotions, assumptions, and perceptions, all right? Weaponized virtues can look like, I'm such a good person, why can't you be as good as me, all right? Or look what I do. I go to the store every day and I wear my mask and I drop money into the Red Cross and I give money to the nurses. You know, look at me, I'm doing my part, what are you doing? Okay, I'm so virtuous, but I'm weaponizing it to instill more guilt, shame, fear into you. Does this make sense what I'm saying? That's called virtue signaling, okay? So we'll break it down. I'll make excuses. I'll put guilt trips on you. I'll act like the innocent victim. Oh, I didn't ask for this. you're doing this to me. I'll blame or shame or point the finger. Again, I explain virtue signaling. Or I can be a parasitic helper. Do you guys understand what that is? You ever, somebody that's always wanting to help you, always wanting to help you, always wanting to help you. They're looking for need. They're looking for a way in. And then they say, yeah, but I never receive a thank you from you. And they start pushing obligation on you, right? Oh, I suffer for you, but it's okay. You know, I just cook your meals every day. I just clean the house. Oh, I'm just your mother, you know. But let me help you, but, you know, never appreciate me, right? But it becomes parasitic where they're helping but sucking your energy. Do you understand? Same with the vampire victim. I always need to be rescued. And you never save me, or they're always throwing obligation your way. There's the righteous warrior that you see in a lot of social justice warriors. I'm so righteous, or I'm fighting for the minority, or I'm the minority and I need to stand up and fight. Or there's this, what I can call the person that soothes and muzzles, basically say, oh, you're being ridiculous. That's okay. No. Feel better. Put a muzzle on you and then pass the responsibility off somewhere else. Right? It's basically like, shut up. Don't call me on my shit. Or they're imposing obligation, or they're throwing baggage on you, or dumping all their baggage on you, meaning dumping responsibility. Does it sound familiar, anybody? Any of this? Have you experienced any of this? Recognizing some of it? These are things to look out for. Basically, what's happening is they're creating an imbalance of power, responsibility, or validation. There's an imbalance here. They're taking status away from you, which means they're taking power away from you, and they're making you feel like you owe something. Either you owe something or you are not good enough yet. How are you guys doing with this? Does this help?
Absolutely. Recognize all.
Right. And what I want to say here is these are subtle forms of manipulation, because many times the person doing this appears to be like an angel or a friend or a good person. And they're digging into your own good intentions and turning it around to make you look bad or feel bad. Is this making sense? Well, they look really good. These are our heroes doing this to us. Go look at the media now. Go look at all your heroes in entertainment and media and start to see if they are doing some of these things to their followers. And it'll start to open your eyes, okay? Because these are very subtle games. And what this is creating is it's taking people away from their sense of self, their sense of connecting to source. It's making them confused and doubt themselves, and it makes them want to follow more. I'm going to do like this hero does. I'm going to do like this person does, this leader does. Do you understand? Watch political campaigns. Watch entertainment figures. Go ahead, Irene.
What I notice in myself is that the more I am connected with the source, the less appeal they have.
Exactly. That's exactly. Because you're immunizing yourself from these tactics. Okay. Would you like to see a longer list of tactics? I break it down even more. All right.
I know you will, because you experience all of this.
Yes. And we have all experienced this. So here's manipulative actions, specific actions that play on your sense or need for validation. All right. This is when they are coming from high status, okay? I am above you and you are lower than me. They'll belittle your character or your credibility. They'll punish you, like put you in the doghouse. Bad Irene, you shouldn't have said that. I'm not speaking to you for a week, right? Or they patronize, meaning talk down to you. They admonish or criticize you, point that finger. Or they can show false kindness or concern, like, I heard you in the webinar last week, and I'm really concerned how, you're not wearing a mask. I'm concerned for your health. Okay. They'll try to be a mentor or a helper or a savior or even a coach to you, okay? But the point is they're not coming from equal footing. It's a high status, okay? They can start preaching at you, punishing you, or protesting, becoming defensive and protesting. Oh, no, 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 no. No, how could you accuse? I only meant the best for you, Irena. I didn't mean to accuse you of anything. I'm not saying that you're buying into conspiracy theories. I'm just really concerned. That's protesting. Thou doth protest too much, all right? Or they can start dismissing or ignoring you, or they do a spin campaign. Do you know what I mean by the public relations spin? PR does this all the time. They'll take a fact and they spin the perception on it to spin you away from the manipulation that's going on. This is happening a lot. A lot of people are saying, look, I've done 15 years of research. I have a degree in this and that. I have a doctorate in 3 different subjects. And I've been a doctor and I've done all these lab experiments. I've done this, that, that. Look at my tower of credentials. Of course you should believe what I say. Of course it must be true because I have this tower of credentials. Okay. Or they play ignorant. They play innocent. Oh, it's not me. Or this is happening a lot. I'm the sane one, you're crazy. How dare you believe in conspiracy theories? Where's your tinfoil hat? And you should be living in your basement with your mother, right? Feeding, you know, mooching off your parents. You're not a responsible human being. You believe all that conspiracy stuff? That's not true. You're not honorable. See, I'm shaming you, I'm guilting you, okay? The other one is the hero's badge of honor. Look how noble and vulnerable and transparent I am. Aren't I a hero here? I'm taking high status, okay? I'm pouring out all my dirty laundry and you don't do that. You're not authentic. I'm so authentic. Of course you should believe me. I'm the better person. Okay, that's happening a lot. Sound familiar, guys? Anything to add or comment on here? Coming from high status. There's probably more. There is more.
You see a lot of that in families too, from parents to children, or the other way around, or brothers.
This is family dynamics, definitely. This is a cheap way of parenting when we resort to this stuff. It's not a bad thing to criticize. It's not a bad thing to punish. It's not a bad thing to teach. But when that status is being used to lower you or weaken you, now we're in manipulative territory. That's what I'm saying. It's taking power away and it's pushing you down into lower status to make you feel that fear, obligation, guilt, or shame, okay? Now, people can also come from low status, like you're attacking me, okay? This is victimhood. They'll assassinate. They don't belittle your character. They assassinate your character and credibility. They rip you to shreds. You're such a horrible person. They'll blame you. They'll accuse you. They'll start overreacting or over-defending. They make you out into a monster. I'm such a victim. They'll play like I'm so fragile and you're so strong. Don't beat me up. Don't destroy me. Or again, that badge of vulnerability, but now it's coming from such a low place. Like, I'm so vulnerable. Look, it's just poor little me and you're persecuting me. Okay, they go into melodrama, distress. That video of that woman with the dog in Central Park on the leash, she went into over melodrama, over distress. By the 3rd time she told the story on the phone to the 911, to the police, she was like hyperventilating. Oh my God, she was creating this whole melodrama, but she was taking low status to do it, right? I don't know if you guys know what video I'm talking about here, but it was just out yesterday. Amy Cooper. She lost all credibility. Both of them were wrong. The whole thing was a battle of identity between the two of them. He's using the race card, and she's using the race card, and then the victim card. They're both using the victim card. It was just stupid. They both made a mess of themselves.
I totally get why. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I totally get why you had like a distress preparing for this webinar. I mean, I'm so stressed out right now because it's like I just lived through that in a mailing conversation with a bunch of people, and it's everywhere all the time.
Yes.
It seems people are more in manipulation conversations than actually conversing.
This one, the feigned fragility, the badge of vulnerability, the melodrama, distress, sensationalism, and absolutes. This is floating around so much right now in the videos, the social media. This is clickbait right here. The most horrific thing that happened, that's the absolutes and the sensationalism, using the superlatives, okay?
Yeah, I need you to watch me. I need you to check out this news because I'm so astonishing. So, I have a high status here, given I can go there and say, yeah, my opinion is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul, you're the meanest person in the world. I've never, ever had a friend like that. Oh, could you betray me? That's coming from low status. I'm being sensational, melodramatic, and I'm using absolutes. You're such a bigot, Paul. You're a racist. How dare you say that to me? And look, you're destroying me. Now it's all your fault. Now you've ruined my whole business, my whole life. I can't even get up out of a chair anymore. Now I have to go take 20 years of therapy and self-medicate, and you're turning me into an alcoholic. It's all your fault, Paul, because you said that one thing.
Yes. And you know how that makes me feel? I feel quite righteous and good right now. Like I feel that when you talk about me like that, I can easily defend myself, and whatever I'm going to assert back, I will probably be right.
And you'll
so
take it
it makes me
status.
I feel drawn. Yeah, right. I feel drawn in.
That's
like,
right.
Rightfully
Now
so.
you're in a game. Now you're being pulled in a game. So I'm baiting you in, okay? And it's really easy to fall back in. Okay, the next slide will show you how you can neutralize that. So,
Troy, are you going to send this to everyone, or we can see it on Facebook? Because I need to go.
Yeah, I'm going to send you a recording. Okay.
All right, but we don't. I'm actually interested in how to stay away from that, because I recognize that it's very useful.
Yeah.
Like, what's the antidote? It's just stay in the present moment and not to engage with all stories.
Yeah, maybe what I'll do is I'll stop the recording at this slide, and then I'll create another one, which is just the antidotes. Okay, so as a bonus, and I'll send you both. Yeah, because I didn't realize we're over time here. I mean, God, this is so much to talk about.
Yes, it's a lot. Thank you so much, Troy. You're
welcome.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye, Annabelle. The biggest one coming from low status is the idea of the cancer card. How dare you say this or that to me? Don't you know I have cancer? How could you attack a cancer patient that's poor and vulnerable? I call it the cancer card. It could be cancer. It could be I'm Jewish. It could be I'm a homosexual. It could be you don't know my pronoun. I'm transgender. Anything like this is a cancer card. What it means is you've just crossed the line on something very taboo and untouchable. This is what anti-Semitism is based upon. How dare you criticize me because I'm Jewish? That's completely illegal. How dare you criticize me because I have cancer? That's what I mean by the cancer card. It's a massive shield made to make you stop in your tracks and immediately turn the tables on you so that you feel guilt and shame and fear. Does that make sense? And we use this a lot. That's the race card, the cancer card, it doesn't matter, okay? And the other sneaky one is what I'm calling the wounded healer. And you go look on Facebook, you'll see these wounded healer posts like, I've had such a personal journey. I attempted suicide 3 times. I was an alcoholic, and it takes so much courage to admit all this. But what they're doing is they're building up their sense of heroism, but they're using low status to gain the flattery, importance, and heroism through look at all my flaws and my pain, okay? And all I'm doing is I'm trying to grow and be a better person. And please don't attack me for my mistakes. It's a way to get out of accountability. And it's also a way to gain validation and heroism. Go ahead, Philippe.
Yeah, I was going to say what you said is that it's at the same time, low status now has high status.
Yeah, it's a mix. Yeah, it definitely is.
So you can attack and defend both at the same time. It's
That's right. Yep. And the woundedness is the low status, and the healer is more the high status, right? Then there's another more actions that confuse the status. You don't know if it's going up or down, and it's a little bit like that wounded healer. It's a paradox. No matter what, I'll just turn the tables on you. If you're high, now I'm gonna be high, make you low. If or I'm low, suddenly I'm high. I'll just turn the situation around. Basically, like, no, it's your fault, okay? Or now, you know, you're the persecutor. You're no longer the victim. You're persecuting me. Like, Philippe, give me feedback. And I just want you to be really honest and transparent. So you give me your honest feedback, and I say, how could you say that? I've never heard that before. You know what? You're the one causing that. You're the one triggering that, right? It's like, turn the tables, okay? Being the rubber wall, evasive or ambiguous, where it's just everything is bouncing off, almost like no response, you can't get through. That's another way of confusing status. It's almost like I'm in, but I'm not in, okay? And all I'm doing is I'm making you work really hard. Distraction, denial, projection, those are all, again, trying to confuse the situation, confuse the status, up or down. And the worst one is using values as a weapon or a shield. And that can come from either low or high. I can't have this conversation with you right now. I'm just so drained and exhausted, and I need to honor my value of self-care. Okay, I've heard that one a lot. Or, you know, you're stepping on my values right now. I have a value of, you know, distance, respect, and you keep interrupting me, and I never get to finish my point. I have a value of respect, and you should respect that too. You should also have that value. Why don't you? Right now, I'm weaponizing my value, and I'm using it as both a shield, and I'm weaponizing it against you, right? Have you guys heard that before? Run into that? Okay. Now, I do want to get into the antidotes and tips. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording here, and then I'm going to, I'll continue. If anyone wants to continue, you can. But just from this enough, what are you taking away from the idea of the war games? And just this portion is about recognizing the games, the various tactics, and the plays. Okay. In the bonus recording, I'll give you the antidotes, but basic antidote is resilience. But what has opened your eyes here, or what have you opened your eyes to here, just as a summary? I know it's a lot of information. Go ahead, Irina.
To me, some of the tactics that I didn't name precisely, but the list that you share, likewise, cancer card, that it's really a lot played in this moment. Such as I shared before, oh, this parent died for this reason. Maybe he was 90 years old, and maybe he has a lot of other stuff, but I have to feel ashamed because his grandparent died. The cancer card is played, the victim, the wounded healer, and use value as a weapon and shields. I see a lot. And coming back what you said, what I recognize for myself is that coming back to the source and my personal resilience is the greatest antidote.
Yes. That is it. That has you be okay with being called cruel, heartless, not caring, right? A lot of those cancer cards and values as a weapon shield are trying to paint the picture that somehow you have no heart, you are cruel, you're a bad person, you're evil.
Fortunately, when we are in our resilience status place, we recognize that they are just projecting on us.
It is a projection. You'll see it and feel it. And you're also okay to be cruel or evil in their eyes.
Absolutely.
When you're
because the
source,
truth within myself that we know, Troy, is that the truth is that we can feel compassion even for these people. Yeah. Likewise, like last day, I understand that I was evolving because I see the face of sorrows and I felt compassion. I say, okay, I am in the right place now.
Yeah. Then be careful, though, that you don't fall into a game of taking high status and patronizing them with your compassion.
No,
okay?
Absolutely not, because I don't think that this person is completely innocent, but I can feel that kind of compassion that is recognizing his reality.
Yeah.
Let's say it's different. I don't know if it does make sense, this.
Does anyone else have any quick comment or what you take away just from the what we've presented here so far? Yeah, Paul?
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Philippe? Yep.
It's a lot, and it would make sense to dive into these examples and to find associations and experiences one made himself.
Yeah.
And then I think this is mainly, it's a help to not fall into the traps, mainly. So it makes sense to iterate on that a little bit.
Yeah. The purpose here is to give you lots of things to start recognizing, start opening your eyes to, and feel it through. Feel how it affects you. And if it feels like it's twisting your gut and you're starting to feel like it's taking your power away, it's feeling non-resilient, you'll know it's a manipulative bid. Okay. Then you have to check in with yourself. Notice the emptiness that's being aggravated and start creating a relationship with that sense of emptiness, to be okay with that emptiness. Because what they're doing is they're trying to threaten that emptiness, threaten taking something away from you. And if you're not okay with it being taken away, you're now hooked into the game, okay? Again, that tip number 2 from way back, create healthy relationship to your own sense of emptiness. Then these things can't work. Philip, you're going to add something, yeah?
Yes, when I was seeing this, the manipulative actions, I was thinking back to my, I had a negotiation class when I was at the university, and it was really funny because there was, for each manipulation technique, there was a counter technique that you could use, and I was thinking no, it's impossible, because then you have to memorize every technique, and then they come with a technique that you don't know, and then you don't know how to react. And I mean, we've seen in, I don't remember which module it was, but there was already a similar list, and I was thinking, I'm sure not everything is there, and maybe if, next time you do this webinar, maybe you add something more. So basically, you can never be ready for everything. So I was always thinking, and that's why I completely agree with what you teach, that it's better to have one
universal thing, one universal point, because then everything else is just a variation. It's all the same sort of variation of the same pattern, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So
and it doesn't clutter your mind with complexity. Yeah.
Yeah, and this works much better.
Right, which is basically develop your access to source, then cultivate, and from there you can cultivate an anchoring of resilience within yourself, and then you can create relationship to emptiness. And really, those are 3 basic things that can handle all of this. I mean, when we do the conflict course, you'll see all of these things. You know, when we do the back and forth of when we get relationship games going, you see all of these behaviors. But the one thing that neutralizes it all is a connection back to resilience, a connection back to acceptance of what's happening, and a connection back to just name a truth from a place of acceptance and resilience, and it starts neutralizing everything. The stuff doesn't work, all right? Yes. And then if you get the hook thrown at you, it goes right through you and back to them. You can practice this boomeranging, unhook and throw it back, all right? And then don't check for response from them, okay? Because that means you're checking.
You're not identifying with that setup illusion which invites you to identify with that glass, with that rigid thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't start with an identity of you. I need to be that glass to survive. So they arrange the situation to an extent that I fear I cannot live without identifying that glass. But I'm not But so the question is whether I try to take that as a spark to connect with my essence, or I part ways and I go into the fear, into the pathetic self direction.
Well, they're trying to pull out that pathetic self and get that pathetic self to engage. So you can feel it getting tugged at. You can switch back to, you know, before I act or react, I'm just plugging in briefly. How am I still okay? And you can throw the hook back. When they say, you're such a cruel and heartless person, internally you can ask, am I okay with that?
So it's not really about them. It's rather about us. So we are reflecting with the reaction to their hook.
Yes, right. Because as soon as I protect or defend or attack back, I've now bought into the bid. I've bought into the story. Now I'm engaged. So it's called completed action. What you need to do is throw the action back so that they're completing it themselves, not through you. You're my persecutor. I need you to be my persecutor, right? Because I'm a victim. So if you buy into the role of persecutor, that justifies me being a victim now. Okay, and then I can call you all the horrible things about how you're persecuting me, right? And I've just pulled you in. And if you're thinking, I'm not okay to be a persecutor, I never intended to hurt you or anything. Now I've just bought in because I defended. Do you understand?
Can you give an example of throwing back the action so they complete it?
So tell me I'm cruel and heartless because I'm not actually giving you a good example. Tell me that, Philippe. I'm not going to give you a concrete example.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're doing a terrible job at presenting this webinar. I mean, I've never seen a shit like this. Seriously.
Oh, that's a light. It's a soft version.
But what was my response? I said, perfect.
Okay, I didn't hear that. Okay. Okay, so I understand what you're doing, but I'm not sure how is this throwing this back at me?
I'm giving you nothing to bounce off of.
Okay, so it's more like my action is dropping rather than really getting thrown back at me.
Right. So basically, you're throwing me you're doing half the action, which is I thought this was a horrible webinar. That you know this is the worst. I've wasted my time. I spent more than an hour and a half. Right. Baiting me in to either defend or attack back, or you know, but so you're doing half the action. Now it's up to me to take the other half to complete it. Meaning, you're the victim. I've got to be the persecutor. So then I've got to apologize for that, to make up. I've got to try and equalize that with you. You're making a bid that you've been victimized. I need to be equalizing that, basically, right? Or admitting. See, you're in low status. You're trying to get high status on me, okay? But if I just say, perfect, it gives you nothing. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. But it's more like just a blank wall that just throws that back at you, where you're going to have to complete it yourself. You're going to have to start persecuting yourself or victimizing yourself more, or it's almost like canceling something out. Is this making sense?
Yeah.
If I start to say, well, how is it for you, Philippe, to experience such a bad webinar? I've just engaged.
Troy, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I just have to go. I want to say thank you very much and congratulations for compiling such a list. It makes us really look at ourselves before we accuse the other to manipulate us. And that's
excellent.
Wonderful.
Yeah, Maxime. Okay, great. Yes. And then I do want, you'll get the recording and you'll be able to see the next bit where I just go through the antidotes a little. I'm already giving some antidotes.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maxime. I think this is a good time for me to stop this portion, and then I'll start a part 2 immediately. I just need to separate it out, okay? So thank you, everyone. And I'm going to pick up with bonus material. So we're going to look at antidotes.